living in the United States, there's a very kind of specific environment around this notion of conspiracy, of upheaval, of pandemic. Now, I want to start this off powerfully. I want you to get, like, nothing I'm saying here is political. You might notice that you're already politicizing what you're hearing me say. You might notice that it's jarring a particular belief of yours. I mean, when I even mention the word conspiracy, your mind automatically goes to a certain group of people or a certain belief system and things that you've read or things that you've heard. And it's the same with the word pandemic. You're already conjuring a picture up in your mind that you're going to relate to this conversation from that picture that you've already just created out of nothing. It's important that you understand you're doing that. So you'll need to drop that. You'll need to listen to this conversation from a place of empowering yourself rather than getting into some internal baseline agree, disagree conversation. That won't work for you here. I'm going to give you a little bit of advice. You have to stop yourself bringing what you already know and believe to be true to this conversation. One of the problems we have as human beings is that our political beliefs get very much conflated with our values. So when something impinges upon our political beliefs, it feels like our values are being attacked. I want you to get that that's not the case. In fact, you have often combined your values with your political persuasion, so much so that you're often unable to tell the difference between the two. Now, I've deliberately separated conspiracy, upheaval, and pandemic. I've separated them because we've collapsed them. They're all in together. And so that kind of ball of confusion is really suppressing people in a lot of ways. And if you look around you in your general vicinity of life, you'll see a lot of people in what is little more than survival mode. People getting a little darker, a little edgier, a little suppressed. So what can you get from this? You can get this ability to be able to separate this in your day-to-day life. You know, if there's members of your family who don't believe what you believe about this situation around pandemic, if you've got members of your family who don't believe what you believe when it comes to the world of conspiracy, you'll have the ability to stay sane in those moments, to retain some sense of yourself without ostracizing or diminishing others. But ultimately, it's going to bring you to the same spot. You're going to have to listen to this with what I would call an open mind. Now, I get it. Most people feel like they have an open mind. And that's true until it gets challenged. And so I often have a little chuckle to myself when people say, I have an open mind. I'll listen with an open mind. But what you're really listening for are familiar tones or things you agree with. So in this conversation, you might hear things you disagree with. I would remind you that agreeing and disagreeing is the lowest form of engagement. You're automatically agreeing and disagreeing as you make your way through life. Your job here will be to go beyond that draw, that pull, that magnetism for agreeing or disagreeing with what I'm saying, and let this conversation permeate. Let it come up. Allow yourself the possibility of thinking beyond the constraints of what you've currently come to believe. And that's right. Our belief system very often becomes our constraint system. New thinking requires you to go beyond that. So what I'm charging you with here, and this is your job here, is to be with this conversation to get some of the sanity out of it, to actually get yourself to a better spot than the one you've been in, to allow yourself the freedom of self-expression, to allow